Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abhishek Jain, and I'm pleased to invite you all to the seventh episode of the KYO series, or the Know Your Option series, post 12th grade by Planty. In today's session, we will be covering a BSc or a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics. We are very fortunate to have with us Rohan Misra, a graduate of the 2019 batch from Hindu College affiliated to Delhi University with a BSc in Mathematics. He is the founder and chief editor of the blog Wong Speak, and he is also currently working as an associate at Bain & Company. In today's session, Rohan will be speaking in detail on pursuing a BSc in Mathematics, what it entails, and the various opportunities and career options that it opens up upon completion. I would now like to hand it over to Rohan to begin this session.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, Abhishek. Just one small correction. I'm currently a senior analyst at Bain, though I do hope to become an associate soon. So with that,
apologies for that.
No worries. Always good to dream. So with that out of the way, let's just dive right into it. So I have a few pointers ready for math, and I'll go point by point. The first one being who should apply for a degree in mathematics, and what, according to me, is a particular area of interest that a BSc in math is geared towards. So I think a BSc in math is a very broad degree. It's not a specialized degree like, let's say, an engineering degree or a law degree or even an MBBS. It's a very generalized field of study. And what that means is it's a little bit of everything. So a BSc in maths is, at its very core, it is a degree in pure math, especially the way DU has structured its syllabus. It's a degree in pure logic-based, proof-based math. That's its grounding. But when you go beyond logic-based and proof-based math, is where you really start to apply your math degree. So for anyone who wants to apply for a degree in mathematics, there's 2 or 3 prerequisites that are absolutely essential. The first one being a love for math, and not just the kind of math that you do in 11th and 12th in school, but the kind of pure proof-based math. Like, for example, we had a few chapters on pure math in school. I think one related to proofs, one related to the principle of mathematical induction. If you like that sort of math, which is a little far away from applied math, which is a little distant from, let's say, calculus or even physics. So that sort of, if you like those sort of quantitative subjects, probably a degree in pure math is not for you. But if you like logic, reasoning, and really getting into the abstract nature of math, a degree in math is custom made for you. So now moving to the second part of this, and that's what are the particular areas of interest that a BSc in math is geared towards. I think the first and foremost is obviously research. So research, a career in academia, that's probably what a BSc in math is best suited towards, because a lot of what you do in BSc math is very theoretical, is very academic, and is not really connected to the real world as such. That being said, a BSc in math would also touch upon some very, very few areas of applications of math, whether that is through modeling, whether that is through multivariate calculus. It would give you a brief about the tools that you need for applied math, but by no means is it a comprehensive study in applied math. So that's another small sort of sub option that you have within academia. One is for pure math and one is for applied math. These are more around the academic sphere, and that's not what I've gone into. And after that, you have a host of more general options, which are not really specific to a degree in math, but are specific to getting a degree in math from a top college. So I think the first and foremost option that comes to my mind, and since I am in that field, is consulting. So consulting and other such allied fields, whether it's the development space, whether it's venture capital, these are areas which are not very, they're not really focused on one type of degree. They're very degree agnostic and they want diversity in their hires. So they tend to, even when they come for placements to Hindu College, for example, they tend to come for all courses. They're open to all courses. And that's a trend with their recruitment elsewhere as well. So there are careers like this which are slightly more on the generalist side, but are very well paying and are very rewarding careers. So that's something a degree in mathematics can also set you up for. Apart from that, a degree in mathematics could also be a good segue into, let's say, preparing for competitive exams, whether it be the UPSC, whether it be the CAT. Why I'm saying this is because a degree in mathematics gives you a little bit of an edge over other more general degrees, in the sense that a degree in math is A, very, very rigorous, and B, helps you really develop the way you think about problems. More than giving you tools to solve problems, a degree in mathematics equips you with logic to understand problems and break them down. And for anyone who's done proof-based mathematics, they know how important that is, and how that is less of a toolkit, but more of a mindset. So, in terms of that, I think a degree in mathematics also sets you up very well for competitive exams. And after that, of course, you have a host of other options that follow from there. But broadly, these are the particular areas of interest that you can target through a degree in math. One small sort of ancillary part that I would say, which is still in its nascency in India, but it's a big deal elsewhere, is the intersection of mathematics and finance, which is what I was interested in when I took this degree up. Uh, so essentially, that is expressed in the fields of financial engineering, of quantitative algorithmic trading, and other such allied fields like data science, etc., etc. So that, I would say, yes, a degree in mathematics would give you a brief on the tools necessary for those fields. But if that's your pure and singular focus, a degree in mathematics is probably not the best path. I would say maybe go for an engineering degree, or if you want to do a general 3 year degree, maybe go for a stats degree or an applied math degree. So that's pretty much all about that first bullet. For the second bullet, which is what my personal motivations were when I opted for a BSc in mathematics, I touched on that a little bit before. And that was that I grew up reading a lot of, if anyone has read that, Flash Boys, Michael Lewis. I read a lot of that, and I was really enthralled by the whole quant revolution in Wall Street. So what I saw, with what I took away from a lot of those books and a lot of the literature that was coming out at that time, was that, hey, mathematics and finance is the way to go. That's where finance is going. And I didn't really read up too much about it, and I didn't know what the scene in India was. And like many other 17-year-olds, I took it up on a whim that, this is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to probably help me, and I'll probably marry math and finance together and start on a career as a quant or as a data scientist or something along those lines. Uh, so my personal motivations were not very well informed, but in hindsight, I think the first step before taking up a BSc in math is research. You should be very, very clear on what the career outcomes are going to be like and how that degree is going to help you. Because the way I see it is, there's a lot of myths surrounding this course, and a lot of them are not true. So you should be very clear on what a BSc in math entails before you get into it, unlike I was. Moving to the third part, which is are there any particular requirements to be eligible for this course? Uh, Now, we can look at it on a more tactical level, which is what I'll cover first, because that's probably more applicable to students and more useful. If you plan on doing a math degree from DU, you must have math as one of your subjects. But apart from that, there's no other requirements. You could be a science student, you could be a commerce student, you could be a humanities student and still take up a BSc in math. In fact, many of my closest friends who did very well in the math degree were actually humanities students. So that's pretty much the only requirement that you have for a BSc in math. But that's on the more tactical level. In general, I'd say if you want to go for a BSc in math, you should be very ready to study very abstract stuff. This isn't going to be a modeling problem. This isn't going to be a differential equations problem or a set of differential equation problems that you're going to be studying. You're going to be studying very abstract topics like ring theory, field theory, group theory, which are very abstract and which have little to no application in the real world. So you should be ready to take that on. And on top of that, you should also be ready to engage with the subject, because otherwise it's very easy to lose interest in this. So you should have that sort of inquisitive mind which really cares about the abstract properties and qualities of numbers. That's pretty much a very important requirement before you go in for this course. On top of that, I think you should also be ready to work hard, because a degree in math, like, is obvious, it's not that easy a degree. There is a lot of hard work involved in the degree, and you do need to put a lot into the degree. So you need to be ready to be working hard. It's not one of those stereotypical easy generalist degrees. It's not one of those. So you should have that very clear in your mind. Moving to the next bullet, which is my perspective on pursuing a BSc in mathematics at Hindu College at the University of Delhi, and what my experience there was like. So I'll be very honest here. I think I probably learned more from college than I learned from my degree. Why I say that is because so at Hindu College, we had a very vibrant atmosphere of intellectual inquiry, of debates, and we had very well developed and very successful student clubs. And I think a lot of my learning happened there. But now that I look back, so a lot of my time in college was spent in debating and spent uh, on analyzing public policy, geopolitics. That was what my sphere of interest was in college. And at the time, I thought that this has nothing to do with what I'm studying. But now that I look back, and it feels like I'm repeating myself here, but I want to repeat myself here to ensure you understand how important it is, and how much of a value add math is in terms of how you think, and in terms of how you can logically break down problems, and how you can present stuff. So a lot of mathematics at Hindu College was a lot of my curriculum was writing down complex proofs, proving complex corollaries to theorems, and essentially understanding and breaking down complex problems into simple, small subsets, which I would then attack with a prove that, use that proof to prove something else. And as I'm saying this, you're probably seeing the same, but there is a lot of linkage between this and debating, and between this and presenting to an audience in general. And to date, I think these are the two capstone skills of mine. These are the two cornerstones of my skill set. And I am greatly indebted to BSc Maths, because it helped me, structure problems, structure my approach to problems, and help myself communicate my solutions to problems in a very good and comprehensive manner, which translated to success in debating, which translates to success in the consulting sphere. That the applications of this skill set are infinite. So that is my perspective on pursuing a BSc in mathematics from Hindu College on the academic front. But you must also realize that when you go in for a degree, especially from DU, uh, you're part of the DU experience. You shouldn't just limit yourself to the degree. And that's what I did. A lot of my classmates initially, they were a bit wary about getting into student clubs, because they tended to be dominated by people from the arts. So they were a bit wary of getting into it. But I saw that many of them, when they followed me and followed other of our other seniors into these clubs, there was immense growth in their personal lives, in their professional lives, in their mindsets. So I think when you get into a BSc in math, especially like in a college like Hindu or KMC or any good DU college, you should not just limit yourself to the degree, but you should explore the college, explore all the avenues a college in DU gives you. And DU that way it's truly it's something to behold, because DU is probably one of the very few institutions in India which has such an immense number of smart people concentrated in one place in a city which is brimming with opportunities. So you must always be sure that, okay, this is what I'm doing in my academic front, but you should also ensure that you're doing something on the extracurricular front, because more often than not, you're probably learning a little bit more on the extracurricular front than you are on the academic front. At least that was the case for me. Moving to the last part, the next bullet, sorry, which is the opportunities and skills acquired upon completion of a BSc in math. And I think I've touched upon this a little bit earlier, but just to rehash it, opportunities apart from academia, your opportunities are going to be very similar to what you would get from any other generalist degree. Within academia, there are there are multiple routes into that academic sphere. If you want to continue in India for your further studies, I think a lot of my classmates took up the IIT JAM, which is an entrance to an MSc and an entrance test for admission to MSc and IITs. That's one path. Then there are countless other exams. I think CMI has one. I think other colleges, they have a lot of entrances for an MSc in maths in India. Apart from that, after a math degree on the academic front, you can also go in for a master's in practically any quantitative field, whether it is applied math, whether it is operations research, whether it is statistics, whether it is applied economics or even normal economics. These are very frequent paths to academia from BSc Maths. Personally, I know many people from BSc Maths who went on to do MAs in Delhi School of Economics. And I'm sure the team would have arranged sessions on a BA in economics. But just to touch upon an MA in economics, it's very, very quantitative and it has a lot of linkages with what you study in a BSc in math. So I've seen a lot of my seniors achieve stupendous success at D school over and above their colleagues and their classmates from economics honors. So a degree in math also sets you up for a career in hardcore economics. Apart from that, looking at the front, which is not in India, I think a degree in math, the path from a degree in math to an MS in the US is the same as any other degree. So you probably take the GRE or whatever equivalent exams they have for other countries. I know more about the US. And you're basically eligible to apply to any MS in any quantitative field. And in the US, they have a lot more MSs in quantitative fields. Now, speaking about my own experience, I was hell bent on going for an MS in financial engineering, which is a very, very upcoming field, great salaries, excellent jobs. So that's one field. Data science, I think everyone knows how big a deal data science is. So there are multiple degrees that you're eligible for in the US. And if I was to put it, in a more practical sense, I'd say that a degree in math does prepare you to an extent for a degree in the more applied side of things, but it probably doesn't do as great a job in preparing you for more applied degrees than it does for more theoretical and academic degrees. So that's just one call out that I would like to make here. Moving to the next bullet, which is what my career expectations were while I was pursuing my bachelor's and whether they remained the same on the completion of my course. So, like many other 17-year-olds, I thought I knew a lot about the world when I did. And like I told you before, I wanted to marry finance, math, statistics, and make a career in that field. But within the first 1 or 2 months of coming into college, it was very clear to me that, hey, this is something that A, I'm not interested in, and B, that I'm not very great at. So my career expectations did change a lot after I entered college and after I actually started studying for a degree in math. Uh, that being said, they did change and they changed for the better. So I explored a lot of careers while I was at math. I very seriously explored taking up journalism as a career. In fact, I interned with Republic TV. I also explored taking up finance, whether it is in a mutual fund or in a regular investing role. I explored that as well through multiple internships. Uh, that's another field I explored. The third field I explored was the UPSC path, becoming a civil servant, following the Hindu college example. And the last and the most unexpected sort of career outcome that I had from my degree was so when Bain and Company came to Hindu, they were open to all courses. And at that time, I had no idea. I was in my third year. I had no idea what I'm going to do after I graduate. And on a whim, I applied to Bain that, hey, let's just check this out. Looks like a decent paying job. Let's check it out. Most probably we're going to get rejected anyway. And by as luck would have it, for some reason I got picked up by Bain, and that was my career outcome, which was a very, very unexpected career outcome. And that brings me to a very central point on pursuing a BSc in math. You should be very, very clear on pursuing a BSc in math before you get into it. But even if you're not clear and if you do get into it, it's probably best that you get into it in a very good college because the opportunities, especially in terms of employment, that a BSc in math, just a BSc in math would offer, are not going to be very substantial. So you would need to rely more on your college's placement cell. You would need to rely more on your college's brand because just a BSc in math is probably not going to get you a job. So that's one thing that you should be very clear on, that if you're going to do a BSc in math, either do it because you're interested in academia or because, but if you want to do it because you want a job and you want to get into some sort of a professional field, you should be very clear that you should do a BSc in math from a top college, ideally from DU, because DU also gives you a host of other advantages. Now, moving to the next bullet, which is busting common myths. Uh, there is a lot of mythos surrounding a BSc in math. The first one being that a BSc in math is a course that you do if you want to become a math teacher. And while I don't mean to denigrate math teachers in any way, that's not the only career outcome. Yes, a BSc in math does set you up very well to be a math teacher or a math lecturer or a math researcher, but it also sets you up for becoming a great policy analyst or for becoming a great civil servant, all because of what I was talking about earlier, which is about how it helps you develop a mindset. A lot of my seniors and a lot of my colleagues from my college days, they've gone to top IIMs and they've gone on to very successful careers in management. I know people who are in analytics right now. I know people who are like me in consulting right now. So a degree in math really sets you up, yes, well for a career in academics, but doesn't limit you like many other degrees. So that's the most common myth about a BSc in math, that you're probably pigeonholing yourself into a career in academia. That's true to an extent, but not 100% true in all cases. The next common myth about a BSc in math is that your coursework is going to be very similar to what you've done in 11th and 12th. And that's probably the most egregious myth because a lot of students take up math thinking that, hey, I was great at math in 11th and 12th, so I'm probably going to be great at a BSc in math. That couldn't be further from the truth. So in 11th and 12th, a lot of the math that we do is on the more applied side and it's not very, very theoretical. So just because you're good at calculus, just because you're good at trig, doesn't mean you're going to be good at a BSc in math. If you're good at PMI, if you're good at writing proofs, that on the other hand does mean that you're going to be very good at a BSc in math. So you should be very clear that this is a myth, that if you're good at 11th and 12th math, just take up a BSc in math if nothing else works out. That's probably very, very incorrect. The last common myth about a BSc in math uh, would be that your classmates and the people you study with are probably not going to be that great. They're probably going to be people who've been rejected from many places. They're probably going to be the leftover sort of people. And while that could be true for a BSc in math from normal colleges and from not very top ranked colleges, that's certainly not the case in pursuing a BSc in math from a top college. Speaking from my own experience, a lot of my classmates and a lot of the people I knew that were pursuing a BSc in maths from DU were extremely successful, extremely smart people who had scored very well in college. Some of them had gotten in through the IITs as well and had given this up to do math. So that's a common myth, and it's a very unfair myth for the people who pursue a BSc in math. You will find successful people, you will find driven people, you will find a diverse range of people. You won't just find the so-called stereotypical nerds. You'll find a whole bunch of people when you enter a BSc in maths. So it's probably not fair to paint all the people that take up a BSc in maths with one brush. Though at the same time, I don't want to deny that there is some truth to that stereotype as well, and there's no smoke without a fire. So there is a degree of truth to that, but it's also about whom you interact with and how you interact with them. Moving to the last point, which is any general tips for students who want to pursue a career in BSc in math. Uh, so, in terms of general tips, I'd say enter the degree with an open mind. Do not make up your mind till your final or second year. Do not be pigeonholed into getting into an academic career, because that's what many of my classmates did do and now they regret it. So what I'll say is be come in with an open mind, make the best of what your degree offers you, make the best of what your college offers you, and then develop a hypothesis on what you want to do or develop a career plan. Don't come into the course with a plan, because uh, then you're just force fitting everything into that plan. You should come in with a flexible mind, with a flexible approach, and be open to exploring other opportunities. That is the most general tip that I can give you, but it's also the most powerful tip that I can give you. And that probably applies to a degree, or to getting into any degree. And that's pretty much it. Uh, Team, I think I'm done with my monologue, so we can open up the floor for questions.
All right, Rohan. I think that was a wonderful session. I think you've covered everything in detail, from getting into it and then even pursuing the degree and then what you could do after it. I do have a couple of questions for you. So I think the first question that I want to ask you is that when a student is in 12th grade and they're actually applying for their bachelor's, they do look at a lot of options. So let's say, for example, if they're trying to compare a degree like a BSc in math with, let's say, a bachelor's in eco-math stats, then how exactly do you think a student should go about making those comparisons? And also, as a follow-up to that, you made a very good point that 11th and 12th grades should not be your sole deciding criteria. So could you also elaborate as to how a student could go ahead and make that distinction as to which subject they're truly interested in?
Sure. So I'll take the first question first. Uh, the way I understand it is, when we're talking about a BSc in maths, we're talking about a BSc honors in maths. That's how we call it in DU. That may be different across other universities, but that's essentially the parlance that we use in DU. Versus a degree in maths stats eco is usually a BSc pass. Uh, where the two degrees differ apart from the nomenclature is how deep they go into the subject. So a BSc honors in math is an honors degree. So it's going to delve very deep into math. Whereas a BSc pass degree in eco math stats is a BSc pass degree. It's going to give you a very high level, zoomed out macro understanding of the three subjects. But it's an instance of where after going through that degree, you're going to be a jack of all trades, but master of none. And that appeals to some people. So that is the very fundamental sort of difference in these two degrees. Apart from that, in terms of your coursework, yes, a BSc in math stats eco will be a lot more applied compared to a degree in math. You will have real life problems. You will be looking at applying math to modeling real life issues. You will have a functional understanding of economics. So in that sense, it would give you a broader exposure, and maybe it'll sort of give you an idea of where you can apply your math knowledge. But at the same time, it won't go very deep into math or stats or eco. So you'll have a high level understanding of these three subjects, and that's probably best followed by a master's degree in either of the two for you to have a substantial knowledge base on any of the three. Whereas a BSc honors in math is probably going to give you a pretty decent understanding of pure math, like a pretty in-depth understanding of pure math. Those are the primary differences in terms of your academic outlook. But in terms of job outcomes, especially in DU, I can talk about DU, an honors degree tends to hold a lot more, it tends to impress employers a lot more. Not only because the cutoffs are higher, but also because the students, as a result, tend to be a little more able in honors courses as compared to pass courses. But by no means is that a rule. That's usually what the pattern is. Whereas in a BSc, I have noticed many of the companies are not open to hiring people from past courses, though the scenario may be very different in other geographies of India. But in DU specifically, that is the case. Moving to the second question, which is so in terms of what a student likes in 11th and 12th and how that would translate into what sort of degrees they want to pursue. Uh, if you love math and stats, if you love just doing math, you love doing physics, go in for an engineering degree, because those are the more applied degrees, and that's probably again not very close to what you do in school. but it's not very far from what you do in school either, as compared to a BSc in math. And that's purely relatively speaking. Neither of these degrees are very close to what you do in school. Uh, if in 11th and 12th you like math, you're very good at economics, go in for an economics honors degree. An economics honors degree is, contrary to what many people think, it's not a BA degree. It's more of a, it's a very mathematical degree. It dives very deep into mathematical concepts. In fact, it does have a whole lot in common with a BSc honors in math, which is something that not many people know. So if you love math, stats, and are very good at it, and also like economics, go in for an economics honors. Uh, Apart from that, I think I don't really know much about other degrees. So if I was talking, I'd be talking out of my hat. So these are the two sort of degrees that I can tell you about.
Yep, I think that that's a very good answer, and it definitely throws a lot of light as to how you should make your decisions when you're in 11th and 12th. But I think just something else that I want to ask you is that given that the CBSE or the ICSE curriculum might not always be the best to decide what exactly your bachelor's degree should be, do you think there's anything that a student could do as, let's say, an additional activity or a competition that they could take part in 11th and 12th that might help them be sure that, okay, if BSc in maths is something that I should do and it's something that I would want to do long term?
That's a good question. So I think the best way to orient yourself to understand what a BSc in math is to prepare for this one entrance. I didn't take that entrance, but a friend of mine took that entrance. It's the entrance for the Chennai Mathematical Institute, which is the foremost mathematical institute in the country, and it has a lot of sway globally as well. So that, and preparing for that, and there's a lot of material to prepare for that. Preparing for that would probably give you a good idea of what a BSc in math is. Uh, but if you're not fully committed to the degree and you don't want to go into that whole rat race of getting into that institute, I'd say to you, especially in my days, I don't know what the case is now, but in my days, there used to be a PDF for the syllabus and what you're going to be studying in a BSc in math. It was available on the internet. I'm pretty sure it's available even now. Download that document and go through that document, understand what you're going to be doing, understand what you're going to be tested on. Uh, and once you get those few topics, then we're in the internet age. Go onto the internet and there's plenty of problems, plenty of books, plenty of publications that you can find on those topics. And then go through those and understand that, okay, is this something I don't? Probably the easiest way to understand what a BSc in math is going to entail. But I would just like to caveat this by saying that a lot of what I'm saying right now is very DU centric. It may be very different for other universities, and that's something I'm not aware of.
All right, I think that's a brilliant answer. And with that, I think that also brings me to the end of the Q&A session. So thanks a lot for that, Rohan.
Okay.
And with this, I think I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking out the time for coming for this session, because trust me when I say that this is going to be very useful for any students that decide to watch this in the future and accordingly decide what they would want to do. So thanks a lot, Rohan.
Thank you for inviting me. It's very flattering.
All right.